Hello and welcome to the second weekly podcast for the Theory online course. Today I'm just going to cover a few things about um, expectations for assignments and talk about some of the questions that people have been kind of regularly asking regarding those. And then I'll talk a little bit about a good way to kind of approach these theories critically, which is integral to doing well on the assignments. Um, so the first thing I want to do, some people have been asking questions that, um, you know, indicate that not everyone has been going through all the folders in the content page of Blackboard. So the first thing I want to emphasize is that you need to um, obviously read the syllabus really thoroughly and then go through each one of those folders. There's examples of the visuals in the examples folder. The readings, some people have had questions about the readings. Um, I want to make clear that the readings are available in one of two places, either in the readings folder itself or on the syllabus where a link is provided. So all you have to do for those readings, for example, this week, the Beccaria readings, is click on the link in the syllabus and it'll take you there and you can read it online. So look at those things. Look at the examples. Look at the readings, obviously, because I want to emphasize again that the discussion posts are your chance to prove that you've done the reading. That's one of the big criteria we're looking for when they're marked is have you demonstrated that you did the reading. The second component of that is have you demonstrated that you can critically kind of examine the readings and the theory that we're talking about for that week. So I'll explain what that means. A critical examination of a theory would take into account those things that we talked about and that are posted on that document in the readings folder. The very first document you'll see those components of a good theory. So is it testable? Is it generalizable? I want you to continually go back to that and in your discussion questions ask something about that. Is this theory generalizable? You'll want to go into more depth in that, explain what you mean by generalizable, how it applies to that theory, and what the readings say about it. So, how does Beccaria construct rational choice theory, and is his method of constructing that a good way to approach that theory? So it could be the case that you say, well, rational choice theory makes sense, but the way Beccaria frames it could use some work. And this is how, and then pose a question about that. Maybe what other variable, you can list out some variables that he would need to include in that theoretical model, and then say, your question is, what variables might you include? Speaking to your classmates. Some practical things about the discussion post. A question a lot of people have asked that I've tried to clarify in an email I sent out, but I'll reiterate here. You can post a discussion question about the readings and theory that are discussed that we're going over for that week or the previous week because these are every other week. So you have a little bit of choice. Pick the one that you're most comfortable with and that you want to write a question about. In terms of the visual, people have asked what type of visuals you can do. I mentioned this a little bit in the syllabus, but you can draw a cartoon, you can do a logic map. There's examples of both of those. I think that's what most people will choose to do, one of those two. You can also make, I know there's online sites where you can do posters where you combine clip art and images. The bottom line, the visual, your goal, what you should be thinking is when Professor Downing looks at this, will he know what theory I'm illustrating without a lot of text explaining it? So what I'm looking for is when I look at this, does it demonstrate that you understood the theory enough to convey it very succinctly and clearly in your image. So it needs to be clear. I think I've seen some visuals in the past in this course that I looked at and I was confused. So you should be able to look at it and think, okay, I'm not confused when I look at this. The meaning is very clear. The same principle holds true for the visual assignments with respect to you can do it about the week of that it's due or the previous week. The last thing I'll say about assignments in terms of due dates and things like that, I misspoke and I sent an email out correcting it. The discussion posts need to be up by Sunday at 11:59 for the week they're due. Originally I said Saturday, but it's Sunday, so bear that in mind. It gives you an extra day. I'm sure no one will mind. So moving on from the assignments, I want to talk briefly about another way to kind of view these theories critically. And some of you may have already noticed, if you're kind of looking ahead at some of the theories, they have one thing in common. They have many things in common. One of those is that they've been authored by and kind of constructed by men. We often say that, for example, Lombroso is the father of positivist criminology, or Beccaria is the father of utilitarianism. So it begs the question, who's the mother of criminology? Where is the female voice, the woman's voice in studying crime? And we'll get to that at the end of the semester when we talk about feminist criminology, but that's something to think about, and it kind of presents a larger question, which is what's the context from which these theories were created? Beccaria was a white male, Western male who had relatively privileged life. So what does that, how would that influence his perspective on crime? And he talks a lot about everyone being the same. He kind of downplays cultural, economic, social forces, and we have to ask why. Why might someone do that? Is it because they have a limited scope, because of their perspective and the context in which they're writing? And what about in different cultures, different countries, men, women? How does gender and race factor in? So, I'm not going to weigh in on all of the theories right now. I'll probably come back to this in future weeks, but you should be thinking about that. Is this culturally representative, gender representative, and what, you can think about the biases that the authors of these theories might have. Is there a reason they might be biased in the way they're depicting one type of person versus another? So think about that, and I'm going to wrap this up with that thought that think about context, and oftentimes you have learned or will be learning that objectivity is, while it's not entirely possible, a good theory should be objective insofar as possible in the way it's constructed and the way it views people of different types. So that's another way to approach the questions. Is this theory objective? Does it need to be objective to be scientific? What would that subjectivity mean? Where is that subjectivity coming from? So these are the ways I want you to start thinking about these theories. I don't want you to just, in the discussion questions, regurgitate what you read. I want you to summarize, what you've read as it pertains to your question, but in a critical way. So you don't have to be the champion for these authors that you're reading. You can be critical of them, and you should. So that's it. Some of you have come into my office hours, and I've enjoyed meeting you. I'll probably meet more of you in the future, but hopefully you're taking all the videos and readings in. I look forward to seeing the first discussion posts and visuals in the weeks to come. So enjoy your weekends, and I'll be speaking to you next week.